Welcome to the real paradise without the blacks.
Tyler thought he'd found the ultimate, exclusive getaway, a beach scrubbed clean of the people he didn't want to see. He hit post on a video celebrating his pure discovery, expecting clout. Instead, he triggered a legal trap he never saw coming. Within hours, his luxury life vanished, replaced by a neon vest and a sentence that would force him to face the very people he insulted. Before we begin, you need to understand a legal concept called the public trust doctrine. Dating back to ancient Roman law, this principle establishes that certain natural resources, like the wet sand of a beach, are preserved for public use and cannot be owned or excluded by any individual. When Tyler decided to curate a public shoreline based on race, he wasn't just posting an opinion, he was challenging a foundational law of human liberty. Here is how his attempt to resegregate the sand backfired. Tyler squinted into the lens of his iPhone 15, adjusting his grip to make sure his bicep looked flexed but natural in the frame. The Pacific breeze was perfect, catching his hair just enough to look effortless. Behind him, the beach stretched out in a long arc of pale sand and turquoise water. He didn't see a landscape, he saw a backdrop. "Yo, what is up, guys?" he said, his voice hitting that high-energy, curated pitch he used for his lifestyle with Ty persona. He began a slow, sweeping pan of the shoreline. "I finally found it. The spot. I had to drive 3 hours north of the city, but look at this view. No noise, no crowds, and honestly, it's just pure." He lingered on a group of people tanning near the dunes, all of them white, all of them fitting the specific, polished aesthetic he spent his life trying to emulate. He lowered his voice slightly, leaning closer to the microphone as if sharing a secret with his 150,000 followers. "You guys know what I mean. Sometimes the city beaches get a little too hectic. A little too cluttered. You come out here and the demographic is just clean. It's a total vibe upgrade. No distractions, just high-tier energy. If you're looking for a place that actually feels like an exclusive getaway without the public feel, this is the one. Stay aspirational, guys." He didn't mention race directly, he knew the community guidelines well enough for that, but the emphasis on clean and pure while pointedly showing a beach scrubbed of any black or brown families was a signal his core audience understood perfectly. It was a dog whistle blown through a megaphone. Tyler stopped the recording and scrolled through the clip. He liked the way the sun hit his jawline. He liked the emptiness of the background. He felt a surge of pride. He was curating the world, showing his followers that they didn't have to settle for the messy reality of a diverse city if they were willing to drive far enough away. He didn't think about the families he'd seen at the gas station 5 miles back, the ones he'd looked at with a sneer before speeding off in his leased SUV. He didn't think about the history of the sand he was standing on. He just opened the TikTok app, typed out the caption "POV, you finally found the exclusive vibe you deserve," and added a sparkling emoji. His thumb hovered over the screen for a split second, a tiny hit of dopamine already warming his chest. Then, he tapped post. He tucked the phone into his pocket, sat back on his designer towel, and waited for the red notification bubbles to start climbing. He expected a wave of agreement. He expected people to ask for the secret location. He didn't realize that within the hour, that same video would be playing on the monitor of a local newsroom and the personal phone of a very frustrated district attorney. The notifications on Tyler's phone didn't buzz, they screamed. By 6 p.m., the Vibe Upgrade video had 3 million views, but the engagement wasn't the kind he could monetize. He sat in his parked SUV, the AC humming, watching his career dissolve in 15-second intervals. The turning point was a video by Sarah Jenkins, a reporter for the local Metro paper. She didn't just call him a name, she did her homework. She stitched Tyler's smug face with grainy, black and white footage of wade-ins from the 1960s, black protesters being dragged out of the surf by police just 10 miles down the coast from where Tyler was standing. "Tyler calls this pure," Sarah said to the camera, her voice tight with professional fury. "But history calls it exclusion. He thinks he found a secret spot. What he actually found was a community that has spent 50 years trying to heal from the exact rhetoric he's spewing for likes." The internet's hive mind moved faster than Tyler's ability to delete comments. Within an hour, users had cross-referenced the rock formations in his video with Google Earth. They identified the exact stretch of sand, North Shore Cove. Then, they found his gym. Then, they found his primary sponsor, Peak Performance Nutrition. The first email arrived at 7:14 p.m. Subject: Notice of Contract Termination. The wording was cold, written by a legal team that had seen the PR disaster coming from miles away. They cited a morality clause and informed him that his monthly retainer was being pulled effective immediately. 5 minutes later, his gym membership was revoked, and the owner of the private training studio where he filmed his workouts blocked his number. Panic set in, thick and greasy. Tyler scrambled to his back seat, pulling a plain white hoodie over his head. He thought the color would make him look innocent, soft, maybe a little vulnerable. He sat in the dim light of the car's interior, his eyes red, and hit record. "Hey guys, I just wanted to jump on here and address the misunderstanding," he started, his voice cracking. "I'm not that person. I was just talking about the peace and quiet. I have nothing but love for everyone. If I offended you, that's on me, and I'm sorry." He watched the playback. He looked like a kid caught with his hand in the jar, not a man who understood his mistake. He posted it anyway, but the fear was so sharp he did something he'd never done before. He toggled the turn off comments switch. It was a fatal move. To the internet, disabling comments was a confession of cowardice. The silence on his profile was louder than the shouting. He watched his follower count drop by the thousands every time he refreshed the screen. His phone grew hot in his hand, a glowing brick of social exile. He wasn't an influencer anymore, he was a liability, and for the first time in his life, the pure world he wanted was looking back at him with total, justified disgust. Tyler walked into the courtroom with his shoulders pulled back, trying to project the confidence of a man who could fix any problem with a credit card or a public apology. He had his lawyer, a man named Robert who charged $400 an hour, walking half a step ahead of him. Tyler had already done the math in his head. A hate speech fine or a public disturbance penalty would probably run him a few $1,000s. He figured he could post a link to a legal defense fund on his backup account and make the money back in a weekend from the few free speech trolls who still supported him. But the air in the room didn't feel like a negotiation. It felt like a trap. Judge Amanda Thompson didn't look up when they approached the bench. She was focused on a stack of papers, the printed transcript of Tyler's video. When she finally raised her head, her eyes were flat and unimpressed. She didn't see a content creator or a lifestyle brand. She saw a 24-year-old who had purposefully tried to make a public space feel unwelcoming to entire groups of people. "Mr. Tyler," she said, her voice echoing off the plain, painted walls. "I've spent the morning reviewing your digital footprint. You seem very concerned with what you call the aesthetic of our public lands." Tyler opened his mouth to give the rehearsed line his lawyer had prepared, something about unintentional phrasing, but the judge cut him off with a sharp flick of her pen. "Save it," she said. "I've read your transcript. You stood on North Shore Cove and told 3 million people that the beach was purer and cleaner because you didn't see certain demographics there. You used your platform to suggest that public land is only valuable when it's exclusive to people who look like you." "Your Honor, my client has already deleted the video," Robert interjected, trying to soften the blow. "The video is gone, but the message was received," Judge Thompson replied. She leaned forward, looking Tyler directly in the eye. "You think this beach is yours to curate? You think you're the gatekeeper of who gets to enjoy the Pacific? You wanted to make that beach yours. Fine. Now you're going to take care of it." Tyler waited for the mention of the fine. He reached for his back pocket where his wallet sat. "I'm not fining you, Mr. Tyler," she continued. "Fines are just a tax for the wealthy to behave badly. I am sentencing you to 200 hours of reflective restitution. You will report to the North Shore Precinct tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. You will be issued a vest, a trash picker, and a rolling bin. You will spend the next few weeks cleaning the exact stretch of sand you claim to own. You'll be doing it under the supervision of the local police, and you'll be doing it during peak hours, when the sun is at its highest and the beach is at its loudest." Tyler felt the color drain from his face. 200 hours of trash, he stammered. "Manual labor, Mr. Tyler," the judge corrected. "Since you're so concerned with how clean the beach is, you're going to ensure it stays that way. And I've instructed the precinct that you are not to have your phone on your person during your shifts. No filming. No vlogging your struggle. Just the sand, the trash, and the people you tried to exclude." We'll see how much you love the vibe when you're the one picking up after it. She slammed the gavel down. The sound was final, heavy, and carried no room for an appeal. Tyler stood there, his expensive hair starting to frizz in the courtroom humidity, realizing that his followers couldn't help him pick up a single piece of garbage. The sun was a white-hot weight on Tyler's neck by 11 a.m. At 92 degrees, the sand wasn't just hot, it was reflective, bouncing the glare up into his eyes until his head throbbed. He wasn't wearing his designer sunglasses today. He wasn't wearing his moisture-wicking athletic gear either. He was wearing a stiff, neon-orange mesh vest with "Community Service" printed in bold, black block letters across the back. His hands, which he usually kept soft for close-up shots of watches or supplements, were jammed into a pair of cheap, oversized latex gloves. He reached down into a clump of seaweed and pulled out a waterlogged diaper, shoving it into a heavy-duty black trash bag that was already pulling on his shoulder. "Keep moving, Miller. You missed a cigarette butt by that drift log," a voice barked. Tyler straightened his back, wincing at the pull in his hamstrings. Behind him stood Officer Greg Russo. Russo wasn't there to be a fan or a bodyguard. He was leaning against a wooden post, his arms crossed over his tactical vest, watching Tyler with the bored expression of a man who had seen 1,000 petty criminals try to slack off. Every time Tyler's hand instinctively drifted toward his empty pocket to check for his phone, Russo's eyes would narrow. The phone was locked in a metal box at the precinct station 3 miles away. "This is ridiculous," Tyler muttered, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of a gloved hand. "I've already picked up 3 bags." "You've got 6 hours left today," Russo said, checking his watch. "And don't bother looking for a camera. The only person filming you right now is the city security feed." A burst of laughter erupted from the shoreline. Tyler froze. A group of 5 teenagers was walking toward him, kicking up sand as they headed for the water. They were exactly the clutter Tyler had complained about in his video, a group of Black and Latino kids with a portable speaker and a cooler, looking for a spot to set up. Tyler ducked his head, hoping the brim of his hat would hide his face. But the orange vest was designed to be seen. As they got closer, the music slowed. One of the boys, wearing a bright yellow jersey, stopped in his tracks. He nudged his friend and pointed. "Yo, is that the vibe guy?" the boy asked. Tyler felt his face turn a shade of red that matched the heat. He didn't look up. He focused on a crushed soda can half buried in the sand, stabbing at it with his metal reacher tool. The teenagers didn't start a fight. They didn't scream at him or demand an apology. They just stood there for a second, looking at the lifestyle influencer struggling with a bag of wet garbage while a cop stood over him. One of the girls let out a short, sharp laugh. "Looks like the vibe changed, huh?" she said. They didn't wait for an answer. They just kept walking, their laughter trailing off into the sound of the crashing waves. They didn't even care enough to take their phones out and record him. To them, he wasn't a celebrity or a villain anymore, he was just a guy in a bright orange vest picking up their trash. The power he thought he held, the ability to decide who belonged on this sand, had evaporated. He was the one who was out of place. He was the one who was cluttering the beach. Tyler watched them set up their towels exactly where he had stood to film his viral video. He gripped the neck of his trash bag, the plastic crinkling in his hand, and realized that for the first time in his life, he was invisible to the people who actually mattered. Tyler's last shift ended with the sun dipping low, casting long, jagged shadows across the sand he had spent 50 hours scouring. His back was a constant, dull ache, and his skin was 2 shades darker and peeling at the bridge of his nose. When Officer Russo finally signed his release form, he handed Tyler back his phone like it was a piece of evidence. Tyler sat on a concrete bench near the parking lot and looked at the device. It had a hairline crack running from the top corner down to the home button, the result of it being tossed into a locker with a bunch of heavy police gear. He caught his reflection in the black glass before the screen woke up. He didn't recognize the men looking back. His hair was matted with salt and dust, his lips were chapped, and the "community service" vest had left a faint, dusty outline on his t-shirt. He didn't look like an influencer. He looked like a laborer. He looked like the people he used to ignore. For years, he had lived through that screen, believing that whoever had the loudest camera and the most curated life owned the world. But the beach was still there, the waves were still crashing, and the families he had insulted were still swimming, oblivious to his existence. The world hadn't bent to his vibe, it had simply moved on without him. What Tyler did on that beach wasn't just a bad take or a failed joke. It was a digital attempt to revive a dark chapter of history. By framing a public space as pure specifically because of who was missing, he was practicing a form of social resegregation. In the United States, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was designed specifically to stop this. Title II of that act prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, or national origin in places of public accommodation. When someone uses a platform to signal that a group of people are aesthetic flaws or a downgrade to a location, they aren't just being mean, they are attacking the legal right of every citizen to exist in public spaces without harassment. Research into social psychology often points to dehumanization as the first step towards systemic exclusion. When we stop seeing people as humans and start seeing them as obstacles to a cleaner demographic, we break the social contract. In the 1950s, Black Americans faced physical violence to integrate these very beaches. Today, that exclusion often looks like Tyler's video, a dog whistle intended to make people feel unwelcome through social pressure. True community isn't built by who you manage to keep out. It's built by the shared responsibility of the spaces we all inhabit. Public land, our parks, our sidewalks, and our beaches, belongs to the collective. If you try to claim a piece of the earth for a specific race or a curated vibe, the community has every right to use the law to remind you that you are just one person among many. Tyler wanted to be the main character of the beach, he ended up being the guy who had to pick up its trash. It was a fair trade. If you think Tyler's vibe check was actually a reality check he desperately needed, hit that subscribe button. We don't just tell stories here, we pull back the curtain on how the law and history catch up to those who think they're above the community. Don't miss our next deep dive into digital accountability and the real-world consequences of chasing clout at the expense of others. Stay grounded, stay informed, and remember, the world is a lot bigger than your camera lens. Subscribe now to join a community that values truth over the perfect frame.